What's up, internet? It's colder than a witch's titty out here in Indiana today. No, seriously, it's not really that cold. It is like 30 something degrees, so it is a little cold, but it's all right because I got some gear, and not gonna be riding the Gixxer with the 6er. Basically, I bought that bike literally for $100 because the guy who had it didn't really want to mess with it, and it had a lot of problems and needed some work, and so I replaced all the plastic and shifter and chain and reupholstered the seat, and this thing been sitting outside for like a couple years. But yeah, so I mean, bought it for $100. Gotta be stupid not to. So we're gonna ride the Ninja today, and it is, as far as upgrades go, I didn't do a whole lot to it. It's a 2017. This replaced my 2014. I was in an accident about a year ago, and that bike was totaled. So as far as upgrades go, I just replaced the fender. It's got a Yoshi Fender eliminator and the X-Ram mount, which everybody puts on their bikes. But I did put in a USB charger, which who gives a shit. But this Gerbing dual heat controller. So it's hardwired to the bike, and then I've got some pigtails down here. So basically I just have gloves, heated gloves, so I can just plug those in. Plug those in to the wires that run through my jacket, and then they come out and plug into this guy, and it keeps your hands warm. So another thing, because I commute and I ride a lot in the dark, so I put on some LED lights, which maybe I'll put the link in the description as far as where I bought the lights. There's some online place, and they were like $25. Pretty easy to install. Just an adhesive light bar you stick on there and then run the wire. So wasn't terribly difficult. And I did put on this Ninja reservoir sock, so that adds like 30-40 horsepower right there. So yeah, that's about as far as upgrades go. I was going to replace the windscreen. On my 2014, I had a Puig, P-U-I-G, Puig racing windscreen, and it was a little bigger and did a lot better job of deflecting the wind, but it wasn't so big that it looked stupid, which was what I really liked. But the problem is they don't make one for the 2017 yet, and it is different from the 14 model. The 14 had 3 bolts, and this has 2, so we'll just have to wait on that. And I was going to put some frame sliders on it, but again, the frame sliders, at least the Shogun sliders that I bought that said they would work on a 2017, don't actually fit because it cuts into it hits the plastic right there, and I'm not cutting the fucking plastic up on the bike. So I'll wait and figure out what I can do with sliders later. So yeah, sporting the Suburban Delinquent shirt. Thanks for that, Sub D. And like one of my favorite moto vloggers, probably my top 3 are Suburban Delinquent, Arson Rides, and Baker X Derek. So I wanted to play around with making a motovlog, and I had to come up with some kind of a name for my YouTube channel to upload this stuff to, and so I came up with this 3-Shot Rocky name. And the story behind the name is that and I'll say before I tell this story, if you're somebody who gets easily offended at an animal getting killed, then you should probably change the channel now. But I will also say too that this doesn't involve purposely killing an animal for no reason. And so that being said, one day my kids come home from school and they walking up the yard, and we kind of live on a dead-end street, and the house kind of sits a little bit on a hill, and it's a good distance from the street. So the kids come walking up and say, "Oh, hey, there's a raccoon. A pizza delivery guy drove through here and ran over a raccoon, and it's down in the road." And he just drove off. So, nice Ninja, dude. Yeah, so they say that there's this animal down in the street that the pizza guy ran over. And so my wife and I walked down there to see what's the scoop. And sure enough, there's a raccoon laying in the middle of the street, and he's all fucked up, and he's like gurgling blood, but he's still alive, so he's obviously suffering. And about this time, our neighbor comes down, and she's got a shovel, and she's says, "Oh, well, I was gonna just shovel him out of the road, but he's still alive, and I don't want to touch him." So my wife and I are sitting there going, "Well, what do we do with this thing?" And so my wife says, "Well, why don't you just get your gun and shoot it?" And it seemed like a logical enough thing at the time. So I said, okay. And now, I will also say that I am not a hunter. I don't hunt. I don't have a problem with people who hunt. I don't kill animals for sport or any other purpose. And so I go get my gun, which is a Glock 21. It's a 45 caliber semi-automatic. And I don't know what to expect because I've never shot an animal before. And I get a shop towel from the garage, and because I don't know if this thing's going to splatter or what the fuck it's going to do. I don't know what to expect. So, I shoot at the range and targets and stuff like that. So I get a shop towel and my trusty 45. And I go down to the street. Now this time the kids are back up at the house, and they are watching out the picture window. And again, this is a good distance from the street. So I walk down to the street, and I scooped the raccoon, or kind of pushed him off into the grass. And again, he's still like, he's all maimed, he can't really run or anything, and gurgling blood still. And so I push him off into the grass, and I put the shop towel over his head, because again, I don't know what to expect, if this thing's going to splatter all over the place or what. And my thought was to shoot him in the head, because that's seemed like the thing to do. So I bend down, and bam! So this fucking thing flies up in the air about a foot off the ground, jumps up, snarling and fucking hissing, and then he lands on the ground and he's flipping around and he's all kinds of fucking pissed off. And so that surprised me. I did not expect that. So obviously I missed this thing's head. I don't know if I hit it at all. And so he can't run away. He's all fucked up and he's still kind of all squirming around, and then he settles back down. And I'm thinking, well, I must have just, grazed him or missed his head completely and scared the shit out of him or what. So I let him settle down, and I put the rag back over his head again, and I try again. And I get a little bit closer this time. And bam! And I'll be goddamned if that fucking thing didn't jump up off the fucking ground again, flipping around, snarling and hissing, and fucking pissed off as all get out. And I'm like, God damn, what the fuck, man? Am I like the worst shot in the world? Or this thing got like a head the size of a fucking peanut that's just got all kinds of hair. I don't know how I missed his fucking head twice. So at this point, again, the kids and the family are all up at the house and watching this fucking shenanigans going on. My neighbor's down the street working on his car, and he's just like looking over at me, and then goes back to what he was doing. I guess he didn't really think too much about me standing out there popping off rounds from the 45 into this animal. So so at this point, I'm thinking, okay, you obviously don't know what you're doing with trying to shoot this animal in the head. So this time I aim for his upper body, and again, he's kind of settled back down. And I aim for his upper torso body, and that actually worked. I shot him, and his mouth opened up, and a puff of smoke came out of his mouth, and he was gone. So 3 shots with a 45 to kill a raccoon that's already been run over by a fucking car. So you can well imagine that I had caught a fair amount of ridicule and grief over that whole incident. Number one, I mean, discharging a firearm in city limits is illegal, which, I knew, but honestly, our street is, the people are pretty cool, and it was in no way, shape, or form anywhere close enough to anyone's house that could have, somebody could have got hurt. So before you jump on the posting, what a fucking idiot this guy is, again, I genuinely wanted to do the right thing, and that's how it turned out. Kind of a dumb name, but there's a story behind it. Well, my phone's about dead, so I think I'm going to be wrapping this one up.